meeting of Monsanto Company shareowners. At this time, out of courtesy of the meeting speakers and attendees, we'd ask that all cell phones be turned off. Additionally, taking photographs and recording audio or video while the annual meeting is in session is prohibited. This includes the use of cell phones for these purposes. This meeting is being audiocast, and you can access the audiocast and the replay at monsanto.com. Where we refer to non-GAAP financial measures in our presentation, we reconcile to GAAP in our 2014 fourth quarter earnings press release issued on October 8th, which is available on monsanto.com. Investors are reminded that our meeting today may also include forward-looking statements. Our company's actual performance and results may vary materially due to risks and uncertainties. These factors are described in our most recent 10-K and on this slide. And now, please welcome your Chairman and Chief Executive Officer, Hugh Grant.
Good afternoon and welcome on a nice, bright, clear, sunny day in St. Louis. This is the 15th annual meeting of shareowners of Monsanto, and in behalf of your board of directors, I'd like to thank you for joining us here today. So whether you know a little about Monsanto or a lot, I hope the opening video gave you a look at some of the ways that we are helping to bring a broad range of solutions to help nourish an ever-growing world. As you can see from the video, our employees come from a wide variety of backgrounds. They're farmers, they're breeders, they're dietitians, they're engineers, they're marketeers, and many more, all with the common goal of helping to make a balanced meal accessible to everybody, not just here at home, but around the world. We'll spend some time later in our meeting today discussing the work of Monsanto and our commitments, but I'd like to first kick off today's meeting by introducing you to some of the special guests that I'm delighted that we have in attendance here today. We're pleased to have with us today several members of our leading growers steering team, as well as some of their spouses. This team is comprised of former industry group leads who continue to actively farm. They bring great expertise, wisdom, and insight to us, coming together a few times a year to advise us on key business issues and decisions, and they have the ability to relate that to what's happening in their farm and what's happening beyond the gates here in St. Louis. So I'd ask you to hold your applause, but I'd also ask you to make some applause. And once I've introduced our guests today. So our first guest is Jim Broughton. Jim's a third-generation farmer, and Jim and his sons operate a large farm in North Dakota, producing a variety of crops, including corn, soybeans, and wheat. Jim's a past vice chairman of the U.S. Grains Council. Jim, it's nice to see you again. Thanks for joining us. Our next guest is David Clevenger, a fifth-generation Texas farmer. Thank you. Operating a 3,500-acre family farm and ranch. Along with cattle operations, David's crop productions included wheat, corn, cotton, grain, sorghum, soybeans, and sugar beet. David is a past president of the National Association of Wheat Growers. Welcome, David. Also joining us today are PJ and Lisa Haney. PJ is a fifth-generation farmer who owns and operates Haney Farms, a grain farming business in Virginia, and he and his family also own and operate a trucking company. Great to see you back. Thank you for coming. Our next guests are John and Betsy Long. Welcome. After serving in the U.S. Air Force, John returned to his family's South Carolina farm and assumed full management responsibilities for the farming operations. The farm produces cotton, soybeans, wheat, beef cattle, hay, turkeys, and timber. Great to see you. Also joining us today is Bob Metz. Bob, welcome, Bob. Bob's a soybean producer from West Browns Valley, Minnesota. and is also past president of the American Soybean Association. Bob farms 2,850 tillable acres, very precise, and also grows corn and spring wheat. Great to have you here. We're also joined today by Vic and Shari Miller. Vic, welcome, a corn and soybean producer from Fayette County, Iowa, has been farming for more than 40 years, and he's the past chairman of the U.S. Grains Council. Our next guest is Bart Ruth, who farms near Rising City, Nebraska. Bart, welcome. Bart currently serves as co-chairman of the 25 by 25 Renewable Energy National Steering Committee and serves as chairman of the Legislative Committee. He's also past president of the American Soybean Association. Our final leading grower steering team member in attendance is Fred Yoder. Fred, welcome. Fred's a fourth-generation farmer who's farmed near Plain City, Ohio for more than 40 years. Along with his wife and their two children, he grows corn, soybeans, and wheat on his farm. And he's also operated a retail farm seed business for more than 33 years and is past president of the National Corn Growers Association. So I kind of hate to do this to you, but you're gonna have to bear with me. So I would ask all of our guests to stand one more time, and on behalf of our Monsanto employees and share owners, thank you. I'm delighted to welcome you today. So as I officially call the meeting to order, I'd like to first introduce Dave Snively, our Executive Vice President, Secretary, and General Counsel, who's on the dais with me this afternoon. I'd also like to introduce our directors and members of Monsanto's senior management team, and I'd ask them to stand as their names are read, and we'll maybe hold applause until we introduce the entire group of directors and management team. So your company directors include Greg Boyce, Dr. David Quinn, Jan Fields, Arthur Harper, Laura Ibsen, Gwendolyn King, Marcos Lutz, Steve McMillan, who's unfortunately sick with the flu, so he phoned in today but isn't here in person. So our best wishes to him. John Moeller, William Parfit, Dr. George Post, and Bob Stevens. This is your Monsanto Board of Directors. Thank you very much. Then I'd like to introduce my team, our senior management team in Monsanto, who are in attendance today, and they are Brett Begeman, who you'll hear from a little bit later, Pierre Corderoux, Rob Fraley, Mike Frank, Tom Hartley, Jan Holloway, Steve Meisel, Terry Preet, Nicole Ringenberg, Mike Stern and David Freeberg, who lead our Climate Corporation group of businesses, who are in San Francisco and couldn't be with us today. I'd also like to welcome representatives from Deloitte & Touche who are here. And finally, last but not least, I'd like to welcome everybody in the room who's made the effort to join us today. So with the introductions complete, I'd now ask Dave to establish that this meeting's been duly called and that we have a quorum present. Dave?
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. The Monsanto Board of Directors fixed December 2nd, 2014 as the record date to establish shareholders entitled to vote at this meeting. An affidavit of mailing is filed with the records of this meeting certifying that a notice of internet availability of the proxy statement and the 2014 annual report to shareholders were mailed to all shareholders of record beginning December 10th, 2014. Peter Deskovich, an independent consultant, and Peter Scheiblein of our proxy distributor Broadridge are present here with us today and have been appointed to act as inspectors of election at this meeting. They've submitted their reports certifying that the number of shares that are represented here in person by proxy and therefore entitled to vote at this meeting exceeds 85% of the outstanding shares of common stock entitled to vote. Therefore, Mr. Chairman, quorum's present.
Thanks very much, Dave. So on the basis of the Secretary's report, the meeting is duly constituted and ready to transact business. So we'll now move to the formal business of the meeting included in our meeting notice and on the agenda card. Before we begin, I'd like to briefly review a couple of items so that we make sure that we give all eligible share owners an opportunity to participate. There's general guidelines for participation on the agenda, so if anybody would like to speak or raise a question, please move to the microphone in the aisle. Remember that these comments should relate to the specific proposals that are being voted on. For questions that aren't related to the proposals directly, there is a discussion period following the voting where you can also raise questions. The vast majority of our share owners have voted in advance of the meeting via the internet, by telephone, or some by mail. However, I'd ask that if any share owners in the room have a completed proxy in hand and would like to turn it in, please raise your hand and we'll have one of the ushers collect your completed proxy. So I can see there's 3 or 4 people at the back of the room if the ushers could pick up those proxies. Somebody right in the corner up here. Correct. Any other proxies from the floor that need to be collected? All right. So with that done, how it used to be, imagine doing all this on the day. So, with that done, let's move directly to voting on the matters before this meeting. For the proposals listed in your proxy statement and on the agenda, we don't require motions and seconds, so the polls are now officially open for voting on these proposals. If there's any share owners who'd like to vote their shares from the floor, would you please raise your hands and I'll ask the ushers to distribute ballots to you. 1, 2 people, one in the middle and one on the very back who'd like to vote their shares. So the ushers are distributing ballots to the individuals that want to vote from the floor. So we'll collect those. So your ballots will be collected after we've presented the proposal. So we'll go through each of the proposals. You can make up your mind, tick the box, and we'll collect them and fold them into the overall voting process. So, and then we'll close the poll. So I'll briefly summarize the 6 items from the proxy statement on which we're voting today, and I'll work through each of these. The first item is the election of directors. The board has nominated 9 directors to be elected at the 2015 annual meeting. They each serve for a 1-year term ending with the 2016 annual meeting. The candidates today include Gregory Boyce, Jan Fields, myself, Hugh Grant, Laura Ibsen, Marcus Lutz, Stephen McMillan, William Parfitt, George Post, and Bob Stevens. The remaining 4 directors, David Chiquin, Arthur Harper, Gwendolyn King, and John Moeller, will continue to serve for terms ending at the next annual meeting in 2016, when the company will hold annual director elections. So is there any discussion related specifically to the election of directors? So the share owners who are voting from the floor today, and there are several, should now mark their ballots for election of directors, which is item 1. So then we'll move to our second item before the meeting today, and that's the appointment of Deloitte and Touche. The second proxy item is the ratification of Deloitte and Touche as our independent registered public accounting firm for fiscal year 2015. The Sarbanes-Oxley Act established that the Audit and Finance Committee of your board has complete responsibility for the appointment of our independent auditors. However, as we've done in years past, we've elected to continue our practice of asking our share owners to ratify this appointment. So is there any discussion related specifically to the ratification of Deloitte and Touche? Once again, owners have voted from the floor, you should now mark your ballots for ratification of the appointment of Deloitte & Touche as our independent registered public accounting firm for the 2015 fiscal year under item 2 in your cards. The third item before our meeting today, the third proxy item is the approval by non-binding vote of executive compensation, which is required by the Dodd-Frank Act. Even though the vote's non-binding, it does provide information to our People and Compensation Committee regarding shareowner sentiments about our core compensation principles and objectives. Is there any discussion related specifically to the non-binding approval of executive compensation? Yes.
Yes, my name is Lisa Lindsley from Some of Us. I actually have a question for the chair of the People and Compensation Committee, who I believe is not here today. So I'll address it to board members Fields, Harper, King, and Parfit. You, Mr. Grant, are on the board of PPG Corporation, and you're on the compensation committee of that board. And the compensation of the CEO of PPG is part of the peer group that goes into determining whether or not your compensation here at Monsanto is at market or fair. I'd like to know what the compensation committee plans to do about that conflict of interest.
Well, maybe I'll take the first approach in this. So thanks for your question. It is true I serve as a director at PPG. I'm the lead director at PPG, and I've been a member of the board there for nine years. Both companies use independent compensation consultants, but they are completely walled off and completely separate. So there is no conversation or linkage between those two independent consultants, and I think the share owners should take comfort in the fact that both boards use completely independent consultants to look at current trends and development trends in the market.
But surely you can see how knowing that the salary of the CEO of PPG will be one of the inputs into determining the peer group average that will influence your salary could be certainly perceived, if not in fact, a conflict of interest.
I don't see the conflict of interest because of the independence between the two boards and the fact that I am in no way engaged or I serve at the pleasure of this board. I serve at the pleasure of the share owners, and I have no input and no connection with the decisions that are made around my compensation at this company. The vote today, I hope, will endorse the fact when we look at say and pay. The reality is that we have a very, very bright line here and have been recognized for a number of years in the straight line relationship between our performance and our pay. And that starts with me, but it goes through the entire organization here at Monsanto. When we perform and we serve growers, our compensation reflects that. When we don't, we don't have other divisions or other parts of the company to fall back on. So I kind of like the clarity that they've brought.
I guess we'll have to agree to disagree then. Thank you.
I appreciate you bringing the topic up. Before I move to I was just going to say before I move to the next topic, is there any other questions or any other clarification subject? So let me so for share owners voting from the floor today on this, they should now mark their ballot for the advisory vote to approve executive compensation behind item number 3 in the card. The fourth proxy item is a share owner proposal requesting a report on certain matters related to lobbying. Sister Jean Paul Sellison is with us today, represent the sponsor of this proposal. Sister, welcome. The floor is yours.
Thank you. Good afternoon. I am supporting proxy item number 4 on behalf of As You Sow and other Monsanto shareholders. Corporate money in politics is a highly controversial issue to the American public. Studies show that 80% of Americans would boycott a company to protest its political spending. valuable brand. In recent years, large companies have increased payments to trade associations and other nonprofits to influence the public and lobby politicians. However, this practice can backfire. The Grocery Manufacturers Association, a trade group that is often associated with our company, spent more than $11 million in 2013 to influence a ballot initiative in Oregon. The Washington State Attorney General sued the trade association for violating campaign finance laws and forced them to disclose the identities of the companies that donated. These companies received negative press for being associated with a trade association that violated political spending laws, a situation that could have been easily avoided. Another example of corporate payments is the controversy over ALEC, the American Legislative Exchange Association. ALEC writes and endorses model legislation for its members. Over the last 2 years, ALEC has incited national controversy for its political positions, such as denial of climate change. ALEC's members have suffered reputational damage. Corporate leaders like Google Chairman Eric Schmidt refer to their membership as a mistake. Monsanto's semi-annual report only discloses membership in 6 associations. One of these, the Biotechnology Industry Organization, spent more than $15 million on lobbying in 2012 and 13, bringing significant negative publicity to Monsanto. We therefore urge our company to report payments for lobbying, indirect and indirect, as well as its membership in organizations that write and propose legislation. Then shareholders will be able to determine if this lobbying is exposing the company to unnecessary risk. Thank you, and we ask you to vote for transparency, item number 4 on the proxy card.
Alison, thank you very much for making the trip today. Beginning on page 87 of your proxy statement, share owners had the earlier opportunity to read the proponent's support statement of this proposal, as well as your board of directors' response and recommendation against the proposal. And let me try and summarize that for you. Our board believes that the company's participation in the political, legislative, and regulatory processes at all levels of government promotes good corporate citizenship and enhances shareowner value. Additionally, the board believes that the company's current disclosures regarding lobbying practices and procedures are appropriate and are consistent with the objectives of transparency and accountability reflected in your proposal. The company's policies and procedures are subject to robust internal controls and oversight, and the company's disclosures under federal law are also publicly available today to all share owners through information provided in the company's website and links to the websites maintained by the U.S. House and Senate. So disclosures under certain state laws are also publicly available through those websites. The board believes that the information that's currently made available strikes the appropriate balance between transparency and excessive burden and cost, and that additional disclosure wouldn't provide useful information to shareowners. So based on the foregoing, we believe that adopting the lobbying proposal wouldn't be in the best interest of the company and the shareowners. I would say that we've made significant progress in the last few years, and we're ranked recently in the top 20% of American corporations under the Zinklin Index study that looks at this very issue. So we're recognized as a those who are voting from the floor should now mark their ballots to vote the shareowner proposal requesting a report on certain matters related to lobbying efforts, and that's under item number 4. The 5th proxy item before our meeting today is a shareowner proposal requesting adoption of shareowner proxy access. Zen Honeycutt is with us today representing the sponsor of the proposal. Ms. Honeycutt, I'd like to invite you to present the proposal.
Thank you. My name is Zen Honeycutt, and I'm representing John Harrington of Harrington Investments. We are asking for shareholder support for item number 5, shareholder proxy access, an essential mechanism for accountability supported by institutional investors and the SEC. As founder of Moms Across America, I speak on behalf of millions of mothers. 1 out of 2 of our children in America today have a chronic illness such as asthma, allergies, autism, autoimmune disease, obesity, and diabetes. All of these conditions and more can be directly linked to GMOs, Roundup, and glyphosate, its active chemical ingredient. I am here to say, on behalf of struggling parents, stop poisoning our children. Glyphosate is a patented antibiotic sprayed on the majority of our food crops and has been detected in the air, water, food, Fruit Loops, our children's urine, our breast milk, and in nutrients fed to children with cancer at levels thousands of times higher that has been shown scientifically proven to destroy gut bacteria, which is where 70% of the immune system lies. Shareholders must know that without proper gut bacteria, the body cannot make tryptophan, melatonin, or serotonin. Serotonin regulates insulin and therefore diabetes, which is on course to bankrupt the U.S. healthcare system in 13 years. Without serotonin and melatonin, our bodies cannot prevent insomnia, depression, anxiety, and bipolar disorder. 57.7 million Americans have mental illness today. When the gut bacteria is destroyed, food particles and pathogens escape through the intestines, causing allergies and autoimmune disease. Allergy ER visits have increased 265% since GMOs and glyphosate were introduced. Science shows that glyphosate is a DNA mutagen and cell disintegrator, allowing toxins, for instance, from vaccines into the brain. It's chelator, causing mineral deficiency and the inability to fight cancer. It is an endocrine disruptor, causing infertility, sterility, miscarriages, and birth defects. I am submitting hundreds of testimonials from mothers describing harm from Monsanto's products and showing our children get better when they get off GMOs and glyphosate. I submit studies and papers today showing how glyphosate impacts the gut-brain connection, leading to Parkinson's, non-Hodgkin lymphoma, Alzheimer's, celiac, and autism. At the current rate of diagnosis, we can expect in 20 years that 50% of our children born will get autism. I understand no one wants to believe that this is true, but has anyone on this board read the newest studies and research? What if the very investments you shareholders are making to build a foundation of security for our children and grandchildren are the same investments which are destroying their future? What if instead of creating health and prosperity, you are causing economic ruin? What if instead of trying to help feed millions of people with GMOs, you are in fact hurting generations to come? I ask you as a mother to stop it. Stop it now. You have an opportunity to make a difference for your family and our country. Support proxy access and vote an independent pediatrician onto the board to guide a new future. Have the courage to create a new future for Monsanto and America. Thank you so much.
Ms. Honeycutt, thank you. It seems that you covered a wide range of issues there. The proposal links directly to proxy access. There will be a question and answer period later where if you want to reiterate some of these concerns or revisit some of these, we can do there. But just to refresh the voters who are here today, this is a specific proposal that links to proxy access, which is an increase in topic interest and one being discussed at somewhere in the region of 100 or more companies right now. So when you look at your proxy card, I'd ask you to bear that in mind. 89 in the proxy statement, share owners had the opportunity to read the proponent's supporting statement on specifically this proposal, as well as your board of directors' response and recommendation against it. We believe today that our corporate governance structures ensure that the board is accountable to share owners, and that share owners have several avenues to voice their opinions and to influence the board. These structures have worked. They ensure that we're responsive to share owners while allowing the board to devote the time and the attention necessary to oversee the execution of the company's strategy to become a future leader in our industry. While the proposal states that proxy access will enhance accountability and give share owners a meaningful voice in the nomination of directors, the company opposed it out of concern that the structure of this particular, I would stress the particular nature of this proposal, could amplify the voice of share owners who don't have a substantial or a long-term interest in the company and who aren't accountable to the company's share owners as a whole. So based on the foregoing, the board believes that adopting this particular frame of the proposal wouldn't be in the best interest of the company and its share owners. But I'd also note that we've had thoughtful share owner discussion regarding the evolving role of proxy access, as we've done stakeholder and share owner outreach, and we will seek additional input through a long-standing share owner outreach program as we consider our corporate governance policies and practices going forward. So this is an evolving area. So Ms. Honeycutt, we'll come back to some of your points in the next question and answer session. But as I look specifically at the proposal today, which is one of proxy access, is there any discussion, additional discussion related to this proposal? So the share owners who are voting from the floor should now mark their ballots to vote on the share owner proposal requesting adoption of share owner proxy access, and it's item number 5 in your card. The sixth and final proxy item is a share owner proposal requesting adoption of a policy to require an independent board chairman. Lisa Lindsley is with us today to present the proposal. Lisa, the floor is yours. Welcome back.
Thank you. My name is Lisa Lindsley from Some of Us, and on behalf of our members, I move proposal number 6, which asks the board to adopt a policy that its chair will be an independent director. We believe a structure where the CEO runs the business and is accountable to a board led by an independent chair is in the best interest of shareholders. We do not see this measure as a panacea, but rather a badly needed first step to strengthen the oversight of management by the board on behalf of shareholders. An independent chair of the board will eliminate the structural conflict of interest caused by the CEO being his own boss. The entire point of separating the roles of chair and CEO is that they have different responsibilities and duties. They are different jobs. The CEO is supposed to be the chief employee, leading his or her organization to deliver on the agenda and objectives the board has set. The CEO is an operating executive. The chair, on the other hand, is supposed to lead the board in setting the agenda, strategy, and objectives of the corporation on behalf of us, the shareholders. We see the role of the board as stewards of the firm and monitors of the CEO and the executive team, which naturally introduces a healthy tension into the governance of a complex organization like Monsanto. Another key duty of the board, with the chair at its head, is oversight. The board is supposed to monitor the performance of the CEO and key executives, guide and incentivize he or she to perform in a way that achieves the objectives they've set, and satisfy the other constraints under which the firm must operate. Having the chair and CEO of a firm be the same person collapses this critical function into irrelevance. The third key duty of the board is succession planning. No one person should ever be indispensable, and it's the job of the chair to ensure that the company is in good, solid health, no matter what happens to the CEO. While already a widely adopted best practice in capital markets around the world, the merits of an independent board chair are gaining ground here in the United States, where almost a third of companies have an independent board chair, and almost half have separated the two roles. We think it's time that Monsanto join them, and we urge shareholders to vote for this proposal. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Lindsley. Beginning on page 92 of the proxy statement, shareholders have had the previous opportunity to read the proponent's support statement that you've just heard on this proposal, as well as your board of directors' response and recommendation against the proposal. Let me try and summarise this briefly. The board believes that effective corporate governance requires consideration of the dynamics of the board and senior management and other factors on an ongoing basis rather than a one-size-fits-all approach. At present, the board has chosen to have me serve as both chairman and chief executive officer, and Mr. Stevens, who you were introduced to earlier, as our independent lead director. The responsibilities of the lead director are substantially similar to many of the functions typically fulfilled by a board chairman, and the board believes that such responsibilities provide an opportunity for the independent directors to discuss management performance and any other issues with candour and complete independence. Additionally, 12 of your board's 13 directors are independent today, and these directors have robust roles in overseeing the company and its management. Although the board currently believes that it's in the best interest of the company and its share owners to have me serve in a dual role of chairman and chief executive officer, working in close collaboration with Mr. Stevens, our independent lead director, the board is fully aware that in the future there may be circumstances under which an independent board chair would be appropriate. Therefore, the board will continue to regularly re-examine its corporate governance policies and its structure. Based on the foregoing, the board believes that adopting this proposal wouldn't be in the best interest of the company and its share owners. I want to thank you again for the proposal and ask if there's any additional discussion related specifically to this share owner proposal. The share owners, again, I sort of keep reiterating this, but it's important to get the ticks in the right boxes. The share owners who vote from the floor should now mark their ballots to vote on the share owner proposal requesting adoption of a policy requiring independent board chairman, item number 6. Okay, so if you could bear with me, the share owners who are voting from the floor, if you once again hold up your hands so that we can collect your ballots. We'll announce that the polls are now closed, and we'll announce the results of the voting a little bit later. So before we continue with the formal part of the meeting and we get to the Q&As, I'd like to ask Brett Begman, Monsanto's president and chief operating officer, to come to the podium to give you a brief update on your company, discuss some of the highlights from this past year, and profile our ongoing commitment to supporting agriculture and our farmer customers around the world. Brett.
Thank you, Hugh, and thank you all for being here with us today. We've got a number of things to talk about for 2014 and beyond. But let's start with the trends that continue to drive our business. The world is expected to add 2 billion people to our planet by 2050. And over that time, agriculture and the world's farmers will need to produce more food than we have in the past 10,000 years combined to meet the needs of our world. And we need to do this sustainably, using less water, lighter impact on the soil, and emitting fewer carbon emissions than we do today. In short, the sustainable intensification of agriculture must play a role in the future of our world, effectively freezing the footprint of agriculture. In the face of our planet's changing climate, this means we need to farm smarter than ever before. We need to understand, manage, adapt where we can, and mitigate the effects of climate change today and in the future. As a business, we are committed to working with farmers around the world to meet these challenges. These challenges can't be solved by cutting down trees and adding more acres to production. That means yield and innovation are going to matter more than ever. And that's what we do here at Monsanto. We have a long history of innovation and discovering and developing new tools for farmers. Tools that help farmers produce more grain on the same or fewer acres in the face of pests, weeds, and weather. Our broad innovation pipeline, coupled with our diverse product portfolio, has earned us the opportunity to be the partner of choice for growers around the world. And I'm proud that we continue to earn their business every year. 2014 was a challenging year for agriculture, a year that saw decreased corn acres, lower commodity prices, and headwinds, not unlike what we're seeing again this year. But despite these headwinds, we delivered continued earnings, supported the delivery of new innovation to farmers, invested in new areas of research, continued our commitment to collaborating with others, and engaged in new conversations about agriculture. To focus in more closely on the financials for just a moment, we closed out the year with ongoing earnings per share of $5.23, a 15% increase over fiscal year 2013. Additionally, net sales for the full fiscal year were $15.9 billion, a 7% increase over fiscal year 2013. Full-year net sales results were driven by the strength of our seed segment, including a record year for the company's soybean business. Overall, these results helped us achieve our fourth consecutive year of strong growth, despite a more challenging agricultural environment. As we look back over the year in corn, we held or gained share in every major corn market in the world. And the drumbeat from what we're calling the decade of the soybean continued, with strong performance in soybeans throughout the Americas, particularly in South America, with the introduction of Intacta insect-protected soybeans. As we look forward, I'm pleased to also continue to unlock growth possibilities through the breakthrough field of precision agriculture. Our investment in the Climate Corporation will enable growers to make better decisions, literally by the square foot. And we expanded a set of tools that we expect provide near and long-term benefits for farmers and for our business. In the area of longer-term opportunities, we made pipeline investments in the BioAg Alliance, where we're partnering with Novozymes to develop exciting new biological applications for agriculture, continuing to expand upon the growing system of yield enhancements we can offer our grower customers. In addition to delivering on short-term goals and investing for longer-term growth, we also continued our commitment using our balance sheet wisely while returning value to you, our shareowners. We've increased our dividend 5 times since the end of the fiscal year 2010, for a cumulative increase of almost 85%. Over that time period, and in June, we announced a $10 billion share repurchase authorization, inclusive of a $6 billion accelerated share repurchase program. Reflecting our continued momentum, strong performance, and ongoing opportunity, we also outlined a long-term target to at least double full-year ongoing earnings per share by the end of the fiscal year 2019. This target reflects our confidence in the growth opportunity for the core business and the transformational potential of our new platform. In all of our platforms, our continued growth reflects the dedication and expertise of 22,000 employees. 2014 included a number of notable recognitions, all of which are a testament to the outstanding teams we have around the world. For the 5th time, Monsanto was named one of the top 100 best corporate citizens by Corporate Responsibility magazine for its commitment to a safe and sustainable food supply. In the area of corporate sustainability and environmental impact, Newsweek ranked Monsanto number 68 out of top 500 companies in the United States in their green rankings listings for 2014. Monsanto was honored by the Human Rights Campaign for our commitment to LGBT equality. For the 7th consecutive year, we were also honored by Diversity Inc. as one of the organization's top 50 accessible and nutritious food is an ultimate goal. And as a result, our commitments reach beyond the fields and our farmer customers. We're working to help expand the broader conversation around agriculture and the innovations that can help people around the world gain access to a balanced plate of food for themselves and their families. This is important because the challenges in agriculture and sustainability can only be solved when lots of different people and ideas come together to talk. And when we do, we often find we share a lot of common ground. To sum up, our fundamentals are strong and we are well positioned to continue to create value for our farmers and our business in a dynamic agricultural environment. We're making smart investments in innovation for the near term and the long term, and we're committed to meeting the challenges of 2015 with thoughtful discipline, commitment to our farmer customers, shareholders, and society. On behalf of our entire board of directors and our employees, I want to thank you for your continued support and for your investment in our business. And with that, I'll turn the podium back over to you.
Brett, thank you for your remarks. We'd now like to resume the business portion of the meeting, and I'll ask our secretary to return to the podium. Our independent inspectors of election have had the chance to tally the votes, so we'll now announce the results of the voting and then move to the Q&A session.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The results show first, to each of the 9 persons that were listed in the proxy statement and nominated this meeting to serve as a director has received the affirmative vote of more than 96% of the votes cast, and therefore each nominee is elected as a Monsanto director, hold office until their term expires or their earlier death, resignation, or removal. Second, the report shows that shareholders have ratified the action by the Audit and Finance Committee of the board, which has selected Deloitte & Touche LLP as independent auditor of the company for the fiscal year 2015 period. And this proposal passed by the affirmative vote of more than 99% of the votes cast. Third, the report shows that the proposal regarding the approval by a non-binding shareholder vote of executive compensation has passed with the affirmative vote of more than 97% of the votes cast. Fourth, the report shows that the shareholder proposal requesting a report on certain matters relating to lobbying activity has received the affirmative vote of approximately 24% of the votes cast, and therefore this proposal was not approved. Fifth, the report shows that the shareholder proposal requesting adoption of a proxy access procedure has received the vote of approximately 53% of the votes cast. Therefore, this proposal was passed. Sixth, and finally, the report shows that the shareholder proposal requesting the board to separate the roles of chairman and chief executive officer has received the affirmative vote of approximately 19% of the votes cast. Therefore, this proposal was not approved. Chairman, this voting report concludes the formal business.
Very much, Dave. So with that, I'd like to move to our final session, which is the question and answer period. If there's share owners who have questions, I'd invite you to go to the microphone to be recognized. But to be fair to all share owners, I would ask that you stay within the 3-minute limit and follow the guidelines as noted on the agenda card. So I'd like to invite any discussion or speakers to come forward.
Then Honeycutt, again, first of all, thank you for passing the proxy access to the shareholders. We're thrilled. I have a question about feeding the world. I understand that that is something that's very important going forward in the future. I want to know, there are farmers such as Will Allen who does aquaponics and grows 1 million pounds of food on 3 acres without toxic chemicals. If Monsanto is truly, if all of us are truly committed to growing protein and vegetables on a very small amount of land, why isn't grow, like aquaponics that grow protein and plants?
Yeah, I think so. We've spent a lot of time in this meeting talking about uh, children and next generation, and Brett touched on this point in his comments as well. The reality is that there's 200,000 kids appear on our little planet every single day, and we're going to see a significant population growth. So the challenge before us is how do we double the amount of food that we're going to grow in the next 30 years or so. So it's going to take all of these innovations. I don't think any one company can do all of them as Honeycomb. The investments and the work that we are doing are looking specifically at how we produce more food on the same acres with a third less stuff. And the stuff that needs to be minimized and optimized is water use and fertilizer use. And you can't do that unless you have healthy soil. So the growers that are here today, and you heard how diverse their operations are, they hand those farms over to their children. And the whole thing in doing that is making sure that you leave it better than you inherited it. So we are focusing more and more on soil health, and a big piece of soil health looks at microbes. And you heard in the opening video today that in the last year, your company has made some significant investments in more deeply understanding how we can improve and optimize microbes and soil health. We're not doing aquaponics, but there are companies out there that are doing it, and I think for our kids and grandkids, we're going to need all of these answers. We're going to need all these opportunities going forward.
Are you planning on patenting microbes in the soil?
We'll be patenting some of the inventions as we look at how we optimize those microbes. There are hundreds and hundreds of millions of those microbes today. The problem is there's been no science applied to them. So when you eat that yogurt that's gut healthy and has some of those bugs in it, those microbes are patented today as well, and many of them belong to organic food companies.
Yeah, but you don't see the correlation between the destruction of the soil, which is happening today with toxic chemicals that are destroying the soil, and the destruction of the gut bacteria in our children, which is weakening their immune system. You honestly don't see a correlation between those two?
You made the leap from aquaponics to gut microbes.
Yeah. Well, because we're talking about the soil as well.
So that was the leap. Let me, if you look, and I'm not, so let me try and link back to some of your opening remarks, which weren't linked to share owner proxy access.
Right, there are reasons why we need a pediatrician on board.
But you've made another leap. Let me just go back to, let me just go back to, if you look at the safety of our product, you look specifically at the safety of Roundup today. Roundup's a product that's been around for 40 years, for 4 decades. It has an exemplary safety record. The interesting thing during that time, as I've lived and traveled around the world, is it's changed farmers' lives. It's improved their productivity. But in smallholder agriculture,
there's not one safety study showing evidence of safety at the EPA for the entire chemical ingredients of Roundup. Not one. There's only for glyphosate by itself, the active chemical ingredient. There's not one safety study.
Let me try and address this. And then we're going to move on, and you can come back to the microphone, but just out of respect to other people.
Okay.
Right? We'll keep going. The safety studies of Roundup, and it's kind of where I was starting. So it's changed farmers' lives. A bunch of those farmers are smallholders. So you talked about producing on 3 acres. Many farmers produce a livelihood on an acre. They're nearly all women. They're nearly all moms. And Roundup has allowed them to avoid back-breaking hoeing and get out of fields very often before the sun goes down. If you look at the safety record on Roundup, over 4 decades, it has been constantly reviewed and re-reviewed. So if you look today at the US, the EPA, Health Canada, the European Commission, and even the World Health Organization, the conclusion of all these organizations over 4 decades, the conclusion is that Roundup, when used as directed, poses no significant risk, no appreciable
You have scientific studies showing evidence of harm, and you choose to ignore them. And the consequences to that, to our entire country and your company, are going to be devastating. We're seeing them right now. And we have children that get better when they avoid your products. And you must not ignore that any longer. We are in a health crisis right now. When you destroy the soil and you destroy the gut bacteria, that equals a health crisis in America. And I'm imploring you to choose a new direction. We need waste management. We need to get these toxins out of the ocean. We need solar energy. We need wind energy. I implore every single shareholder to challenge Monsanto, to choose a new direction without toxic chemicals. It's needed now.
Thank you, Ms. Monica. I would anticipate you may come back. Let me address your last comments before we go to the next speaker. You listed in your opening remarks a long list of ailments, diseases, and illnesses, and you talked about children. We as share owners, we as a company, are made up of mums and dads. So as a community, I gave you the respect of letting you finish. If you'd let me just finish my remark. As a community of mums and dads, as you list these diseases, there is the reality that many of these diseases, such as diabetes and autism, have risen over the last 40 years. There is absolutely no linkage with Roundup. As these diseases have risen, the use of Roundup has also risen, often driven by the fact that it works so well and it is so safe. So it's used in preference to many other products. In the same time frame, cell phone use has grown enormously. The organic food industry has become a multi-billion-dollar industry in the same time frame. These are coincidental, they're not causal, they're not linked. So I understand, I hear your concerns. I can assure you, based on 40 years and multi-re-reviews of the scientific evidence, there isn't a shred of evidence that connects these things. I'm going to move to the next speaker. If you could introduce, you're welcome. If you maybe could introduce yourself.
Good afternoon, Mr. Grant. My name is B.J. Haney. I'm a farmer in eastern Virginia. I farm on a peninsula of land that touches the Potomac River, the Chesapeake Bay, and the Rappahannock River, more commonly known as the Chesapeake Bay watershed. And because of products that you have available, I'm able to farm more sustainable than my forefathers did. Because of products you have available, I am able to no-till farm, which allows me to reduce potential runoff in the Chesapeake Bay. It allows me to improve my soil health and soil tilth. It also reduces my carbon footprint by less tillage, burning of diesel fuel, and additional herbicide trips across my fields. I'm also thankful because of products you have available, I, unlike my forefathers, we don't have to handle the harsh chemicals and pesticides as we physically had to before. Not only as I stand here before you as a proud farmer, I also am a proud father. My wife and I are the parents of 3 young, healthy kids. We feed and clothe for products off the grocery store shelves and retail shelves as millions of other Americans do. Because of your products, we're fortunate that we are able to have healthier choices and eat cheaper than millions of others in other countries. So for that, I say thank you. Keep up the good work that you're doing.
Thank you. Thank you.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
My name is Sean Haggerty. I am a member of the Society of Jesus, also known as the Jesuits, and I'm in a community here at St. Louis University.
Welcome.
I have just a short comment. Since 2004, the Jesuits and investors connected with the Interfaith Center on Corporate Responsibility have engaged in dialogue with Monsanto regarding their commitment to promoting human rights within the company, with business partners, including companies in your supply chain. our colleagues have expected much from Monsanto. We have also learned from our partnership, and hopefully you've learned from us. Monsanto has begun to address human rights concerns within the company and within their sphere of influence, which comprises over 35 countries, and has established risk management practices and assessments to gauge progress. These concerns include child labor, forced labor, unjust compensation, indiscriminate working hours, and discrimination, among others. You have implemented robust communications and a training plan with employees, business partners, and other external associates. Additionally, you keep the door open to us, your share owners, and are transparent about your progress in the area of human rights. Right now, many of you are probably wondering why I'm actually up here talking. In recent dialogues, we have expressed our concerns with the use of glyphosate, or Roundup in particular, in Colombia. In Colombia, they aerial spray Roundup in order to destroy drug crops, coca, the crop that is used to make cocaine. My brother Jesuits in Colombia have shared with us that aerial spraying of this herbicide has caused tremendous economic harm to farmers and their families. Although Monsanto no longer sells Roundup to the Colombian government and has provided us with helpful information and contact within their sphere of influence to help us address on various issues, and we are grateful that you have helped us with this issue. We ask that you continue to use your influence with the Colombian government and within your sphere of influence to halt the use of aerial spraying of Roundup and to support Colombian farmers. Thank you for your candor, and thank you for your commitment to human rights. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. And we have, you're right, we've been on a long journey together over more than a decade. So I appreciate your comments, and we will look at your request. Yes.
Good afternoon. My name is Sister Barbara Jennings, and I represent the Midwest Coalition and the Interfaith Center for Corporate Responsibility in New York City. We have appreciated the open and constructive dialogue with our company this year, especially related to environmental and social concerns and the company's role in managing impacts amidst a world with growing population and shrinking amounts of land and natural resources, including potable water in several regions around the world. We commend Monsanto for recognizing that water is absolutely essential to its business, its growth, and most important, sustainability of our climate. In May 2014, Monsanto declared its goal to increase water use efficiency in irrigation across its own global seed production operations by 25% by 2020. We have already seen successful efforts in the U.S., India, Peru, Indonesia, and Brazil, and we congratulate all those working on this team. In addition, in June of 2014, our company signed the CEO Water Mandate from the United Nations, which commits the company to self-disclose performance on its direct operations, supply chain, watershed management, public policy, community engagement, and to take collective action with other corporations, with states and NGOs to protect, respect, and remedy in watersheds and local agricultural footprints. Recently, the CEO Water Mandate released a detailed guidance policy on human rights to water and sanitation. We look forward to a continued conversation on this topic during 2015. This year, as our company announced these new initiatives, new seed plants in Russia and the Ukraine, possible fruit, vegetables, and conventional crops in the EU, research and development of a GMO wheat product in the United States. These new plans and initiatives will require our company to stretch even further into local watersheds and local economies with even greater foresight and careful diligence. We look forward to a continued water-related leadership of Monsanto with global corporations and transparency. Mr. Grant, I have a quote from you. Agriculture is at the intersection of many major challenges today, whether it's a growing population and the food demand, water availability, soil health, or climate change. We as shareholders want to continue to dialogue on all of these major challenges to our company. Our food system does need to have some very careful scrutiny, transparency as we move forward. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. And you have our continued commitment in this area. I think as the planet becomes warmer, and it is, and more people are recognizing and accepting this, water becomes, not just in agriculture, but particularly in agriculture, becomes critical. So we need to figure out, as I said earlier, how to make more with less. We've committed to reduce water use in our seed production by around 25% by 2020, depending on the weather. That's always the caveat in agriculture. That could be somewhere in the region of 30 to 80 billion gallons of water, which I'm told would keep DC going for 3 years, which is a thought. But it keeps water supply going for 3 years in a medium-sized city. So this is something that we're committed to. We don't have all the answers. We're engaging with others, but I appreciate your encouragement. It's a business goal. It's also a societal one. Yes.
Mr. Chairman, I have a comment and a question. In the interest of providing shareholders with a balanced view of how the world views our company, I wanted to mention that we asked our 5.4 million members to vote last year on who, in their opinion, was the most evil corporation in the world. And Monsanto beat out with tough competition against the likes of Nestle and Chevron, but Monsanto did win that contest. So, you do have some stiff headwinds there, as you like to say, in terms of public opinion. My question: the shareholder proposal on proxy access was an advisory proposal, not a mandatory proposal, but it did receive 53% of the vote. So on behalf of the Board of Directors, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to know if the board intends to implement that proposal.
Yeah, so the ink is still wet on the vote. So we're living through this today. I can tell you with the 53% vote, the interesting thing is, and you know this is your life, our financial year ends in August, so we're one of the first shareowner meetings in the country, so we get the privilege and the opportunity of being in the front end of these governance shifts. We will continue, and we've got a great track record of this, and outreach to our shareowner and our owners. We'll work on it for the year. There's another 100 plus companies that are looking at exactly this conversation. And I think by the time that you're back next year, I assume that you will be, I fully anticipate we'll have modified our approach. The proposal as it's crafted today, I think needs work, but within the heart of that, there's the opportunity for modification.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for your encouragement. Yes.
I'd like to address the EPA studies, which you mentioned show they've had 40 years of safety studies. But first, I'd like to say why I'm back up here again. So I have 3 sons. They're 12, 9, and 10 now, and 6. And my eldest son had an allergy to nuts, and I held his hand and prayed to God for his life in the hospital because he almost died from nuts. Now my husband and I have no allergies, and since he's gone organic, my son's allergy has gone from a 19 down to a 0.2. It's no longer life-threatening. My other son developed a sudden onset of autism symptoms, and screaming, yelling, hitting at his father. His grades dropped from A's to D's. His urine was very stinky. He was bedwetting, and his grade. There was one other thing. Anyway, just erratic behavior. And we we took him to the doctor, and he tested him, and he had C. diff, fungus, Clostridia, leaky gut, which is 19 different food intolerances, all things which are present in cows when they're exposed to glyphosate, and they have an overgrowth of bad bacteria. That's the thing about glyphosate. It destroys the beneficial gut bacteria and allows the proliferation of the bad bacteria. And when we went completely organic, when I tested my son at that time, and he had 8.7 parts per billion of glyphosate in his urine, which is 8 times higher than which has been found in Europe. And 6 weeks later, we went totally organic, and 6 weeks later, he no longer tested positive for glyphosate in his urine, and he hasn't had a single autism symptom since. And I'm not the only one. We have hundreds of testimonials like this. And in addition, we have the science behind it. And one of the scientific studies, so I'm going to transition now from allergies to infertility and miscarriages, okay? Because one of the scientific studies that I have seen that was submitted to the EPA for the approval that you call, and they are now reassessing it. That study was on oysters, which showed after 4 days of being exposed to a very small amount of glyphosate, 4 days they were closed and not feeding. You know, I asked everybody to wonder what happened after the 5th day, and what about the shrimp, the white shrimp that died within 4 days at 3.9 parts per billion, levels way below what has been shown in our food. And the other thing is that glyphosate does not biodegrade the way that the company has claimed. Their new study shows out that actually shows that glyphosate stays viable in salty dark water for 351 days. That's in our binder that I'm presenting here. What's in our room? Salty dark water. How big are our fetus? The size of a shrimp. And what about the pig studies that show a 30% increase of miscarriages when the pig's grains are sprayed with glyphosate, and then it goes back down to 3% when they're not, and then it goes back up to 30% when they are. 3,000 pigs in Denmark. Ib Peterson, look that study up. So if glyphosate is not impactful in the way that you're saying, I ask you to look at what are the consequences to our human beings. We've got the highest rate of infertility and sterility ever in recorded history in America today. Why not change direction? Why not look in a new direction that's not chemical farming? We need jobs. The veterans need jobs. They need to work on these farms. The farmers are ingenious. We're asking you farmers to use your ingenuity. We've farmed for thousands of years without toxic chemicals. We absolutely can do it again. And you're a company that has the means and the finances to redirect into something else. I'm just asking you to please look at a new direction and comment, please, on if glyphosate kills a shrimp within 4 days, what do you think it's going to be doing to fetuses?
Before I take the next question, let me just come back with, and you can come back again, but we're going to keep cycling, just out of respect for other people here. So first of all, it's good to hear that your children are doing better since they changed the diet. That's good. I'm also a father of 3 children as well, and you're in a room with a whole bunch of mum and dads. Many of them work for Monsanto, and I can tell you, I couldn't be more proud to be here, and I know that many of the mums and dads here feel the same way, as do the veterans that come here and work. So we're in this together. These are really hard conversations to engage in because, as I mentioned before, as we briefly talked before I came up here, we can engage in a scientific conversation. We're a science-based company. It's really, really hard to engage claims and suppositions. I've seen some of the claims that have been made. When the regulatory agency, and this is a bit like painting the Golden Gate Bridge, you're no sooner done than you start at the other end again. These regulatory reviews have run for 40 years. It's the nature of the work that's done in this country and around the world. And the science associated with Roundup over more than 4 decades, and thousands of scientists here who work and support that, is exemplary. Roundup finds itself in a toxicology and safety class unfortunately, for a lot of mums and dads who have little kids, maybe their first kids, when there's no instruction manual and you're trying to figure out what's the right thing, when your job is to think about the well-being and the safety of that kid, some of these claims and some of this soft science results in parents being more frightened and more scared than they really, really be, and underestimates the impact that these products and these seeds have on changing the curve in food production and what we need to do as mums and dads and parents over the next 20 to 30 years for our little planet. Let me transition. We have two more questions here. I'm sorry, we're trying to cycle a wee bit here.
Good afternoon, Mr. Grant. Fred Yoder. Again, I'm a family farmer in Plain City, Ohio. I'm a fourth generation. My son is the fifth generation. 30 years ago, I bought the farm back off of my dad, and I asked him, I said, any things you'd like to tell me or anything you'd like for me to accomplish? He said, the only thing I ask you to do, son, is leave it in better shape than when you got it. And I really, honestly, truly believe it's an honor and a privilege for me to work the land. There's many people that never get the chance to do what I do. And I, especially with my faith, that I really feel I have an opportunity to do good things as well as provide stewardship for that land so that my son's family and his family's family will go ahead and have something that's better than what we have today. We have to grow food sustainably. We have a hungry world, and like you mentioned before, we're going to have many, many people. We're going to have 9 billion people by 2050, and we're going to have to do it with the same amount of land, only do it in a better way. I have doubled my yields, my productivity since the 80s, and one of the reasons I've been able to do that is some of the products that Monsanto has offered to me. It's made me more sustainably secure in my farm. I can grow more food, and I can do it in a safer way. You know, there's a misperception out there of that somehow Monsanto owns farmers now, that, they are locked up stock and barrel and they have no way out. Well, let me tell you, that's absolutely not true. Farmers are the most cantankerous, stubborn people you ever want to see, and they don't like to pay any more for their products than they have to. Monsanto products are expensive. And there's only one reason why farmers use them, because they have a great return on their investment. And they have a way to make it easier and a more sustainable product when they get done. So my big problem I have here is we've heard Ms. Honeika talk about fear. There's lots of ways to make people fearful. Again, I have a family too. I have a son and daughter, and because of the products that Monsanto has offered me on my farm, I'm able now to bring my son and my daughter in, and they are now a major part of the family farm, and they'll continue to go down there. So because I'm able to do a better job and be more efficient, I now can include them in my farm. The other thing too is when you say may be linked to, that just drives me crazy. You know, you could say obesity may be linked to water or anything. And if you really want to get crazy, you could say organic food may be linked to foodborne illnesses, because it certainly is. Foodborne illnesses went up exponentially since we have increased our productivity in organic, because there's lots of ways that you can't get rid of the residue. Am I saying that organic is bad? Absolutely not. It's a great way to eat, and it's a great way to offer opportunities to different farmers. My point is, science is not perfect, but it's the very, very best tool we have to offer in making these decisions. I thank you for glyphosate. It's changed my life. It's changed agriculture. It's the safest product I've ever used on my farm to kill weeds. And my question to Ms. Honeika, if not Roundup, then what? What are we going to replace it with? It's probably going to be with something that's a lot more toxic than we have today. So let's be careful what we ask for. There might be unintended consequences. In closing, I just want to say, with new Monsanto emphasis on soil health and microbes and and all the many things that they're doing, I can't wait till the next products come out there that are scientifically based. I wish the average consumer could know the people in Monsanto like I do. There are good people that you have working for you. And I just wish everyone could know how much they care about what they do and how they're moving us forward to a much more sustainable place than we were before. Thank you.
Sir. My name is Daniel Goldstein. I'm a full-time employee of Monsanto. I'm a senior science fellow, and I serve as the lead for medical sciences in our regulatory affairs division. More to the point, I'm a pediatrician, board certified both in the United States and Canada, also board certified in medical toxicology and clinical pharmacology. I'm intimately involved in the safety assessment of each and every one of our products. I personally see and approve every raw ingredient specification coming into every one of our facilities globally, and I see and must approve every product specification for every finished chemical product going out globally. Been very involved both in our chemical safety committee and actually chair our current biological safety committee. There are far too many allegations made today to address each one individually, but I can tell you that I have looked very carefully at the medicine and the science behind these allegations, and I find them to be unfounded. I would also like to reflect on my experience here over 16 years. We have had several occasions when we have had consumer product formulations proposed, which in fact did raise some children's health issues. These were early proposals. They're not created by anyone with any malicious intent, but they're coming from our chemistry division who are attempting to find new solutions to consumer weed control problems and to control costs. In both of those occasions, despite the fact that we had invested resources in creating those proposed products and in fact could have realized significant cost of goods reductions in producing those products, the children's health concerns were sufficient for me to get strong support from our executive leadership team, and specifically David Snively. You may recall these events. And these products, in fact, never made their way into our product line. So I would like to express my personal high confidence in the safety of all of our products and thank our leadership for their exquisite sensitivity on children's health issues and for their sensitivity on health issues for our employees, for our customers, and the general public. Thank you.
I think in 15 years, that's the first time we've had an employee walk up to the mic, so it doesn't feel quite so lonely. Thank you. Yes.
I appreciate that there are very good people here, and no one is trying to say that there aren't people here with children. I bet if I asked people to raise their hand if they had children with autism or allergies or autoimmune diseases or diabetes or obesity, that almost everybody's hand would go up. That you love someone that's impacted by, right? And I understand that a pediatrician that works for Monsanto, of course, would not say that your products would induce any type of harm. But the American Academy of Pediatrics does. They say that children should avoid pesticides. And when pesticides show up in our Fruit Loops and in our breast milk, I would assert that it is time to reassess the infiltration and the contamination of our children and the pollution of our planet. In 2013, there was a use of Roundup that increased by 73%. What do we think is going to happen to the environment when you increase a chemical that is a chelator, an endocrine disruptor, an antibiotic, and a DNA mutagen by 73%? What's going to happen to our water, to our air, to our food? I just ask you to look at that. And one of the reasons why it's being increased by 73% is because it's not working. There was a farmer, an Amish farmer named John Kemp, who said he had a conference of 150 farmers 2 years ago and asked them if they're using Roundup. Every single one hand went up. This year he asked them, 8 hands went up because it's not working. And so we must, and I know that's why you're developing other chemicals in other ways, but we need to look at that. In addition to, Roundup is being advised to be sprayed as a drying agent. So now we have Roundup not just on GMOs, but but it's being sprayed on wheat and peas and legumes and sugar as a drying agent. So unless you're eating organic, you're being exposed to glyphosate and Roundup in levels far above that has been shown to destroy gut bacteria. So will you please at least consider advising farmers not to spray it as a drying agent upon harvest to speed up harvest, just to stop doing that, and then take progress with your GMOs so that they are not directly connect with Roundup. Can you speak upon the drying agent?
Yeah, and some of your earlier points as well. Many of the claims, without going through all these, many of the claims that you make at the start have been considered by the German rapporteur. There are hundreds of new studies that have been accepted by Germany. Those studies, they're not all public yet. The vast majority of those are public. And the rate limiting step is how fast the European Food Standards Agency can post them to their website. So between the Monsanto website and the European Food Standards Agency website, those studies are all out there in the public domain. Many of the claims that you've made are completely debunked by that scientific. So I don't think in this environment it's worthwhile going through study by study on this. I think the important thing is the recognition that the science exists, that new science is constantly being submitted, and that the German conclusion, as they advise the European member states, is that this product, when used as directed, is safe to humans, to wildlife, and to the environment.
Yeah, they thought that was DDT and PCB as well.
The speed.
It took 20 years, and we're at that point now with Roundup and glyphosate.
The speed drying, after 40 years, the speed drying, there is no label claim, there is no label advice for speed drying. We control, and it's nasty weeds, it's Canada thistle, it's quackgrass, tough to control weeds that delay harvesting, and the contamination of those weed seeds ends up in grain. Some of those seeds are toxic and noxious, and it becomes very difficult to extract them from grain if you don't get them out before harvest. So there's a mythology around this speed drying. The reality is growers are controlling difficult to control weeds before they lift and harvest that crop.
So it is being advised to be spraying on crops.
Control weeds in advance of harvesting those crops.
Not as a drying agent?
To control weeds, to assist the harvesting of those crops.
No, as a drying agent. Is it being advised to be sprayed as a drying agent upon harvest?
I think the lawyers say asked and answered. So it's used to control weeds in advance of the harvest of that crop. The crop is already dry. You're removing the green matter. So if you remember, and you see this in many other parts of the world, that are de facto organic because they're pulling those weeds by hand. And having done that as a young man, that is a miserable process. So it controls those weeds before the crop is lifted, before the crop is harvested, and it keeps a lot of those weed seeds out of your food, which when you talk about gut disease and gut illnesses, you don't want those seeds being ground with your flour.
So you would not advise it to be sprayed on peas or legumes or sugar as a drying agent?
I feel as if we've done this 3 times. So I'm going to thank you for your question.
So I just want to say that there are scientific studies. You can go to momsacrossamerica.com and go into data. There's over 1,800 studies on GMO-free USA. And I would just invite all of these shareholders to please try to eat organic and to introduce probiotics in the form of raw organic sauerkraut into your gut, restore your gut bacteria, and just try it for 3 weeks. Eat organic. That's all. And I invite you too, Mr. Grant. Please try that and see how your health improves. And I want to thank everybody for your time.
Thanks for making the trip. Thank you. Yes.
You got another employee. I'm Donna Farmer. I've been with Monsanto for 24 years, and I've been listening to the discussion this afternoon and the voices of concerns. And like Dan, I felt compelled to speak. And I want to make 2 points about the safety of our products. One, I know the commitment that Hugh and his leadership team and my colleagues around this room and around the world have to the safety of our product.
new. We've had a culture of that commitment for decades. I started working here in 1991, and I had the opportunity to meet Dick Mahoney. And he said to me, he said, you will never be asked to compromise your ethics. He said, in fact, you as an employee have a responsibility to speak up if you have any concerns. And that has been the same way it has been since I've been here since 1991. So, we've talked about this before. I'm a mom as well. And I am confident with the commitment of Hugh and our leadership team and our employees towards our product safety that the food that is produced by our products is safe for our kids to eat. The second point is we, as you said, we have a 40-year history of safe use of glyphosate and Roundup. And they've got one of the most extensive databases in the world for any product. There are 6 complete toxicology sets that the Germans have been examining. And that is unheard of for any product of any kind, let alone a pesticide. And they have been reviewed and re-reviewed for years, and the consensus over the past 40 years is the same, that it doesn't pose a risk when intended for use for human health or the environment or wildlife. Now, we talked about that before. You want to know who the people at Monsanto are that look at those studies? That's Dan and I. So all of my colleagues and I, that's our responsibility here. We conduct the studies, we review all those publications, and we address all of those allegations. And we're required by law, if there are potential adverse effects, we have to report them to regulators around the world. And so when you're talking, I heard many of the allegations that were talked about today, internal scientists at Monsanto, regulatory scientists, third-party scientists around the world have found them not to change their safety profile of glyphosate because those studies aren't sound scientifically or they're irrelevant to how the product is used. So as I said earlier, I'm a mom. I'm a longtime mom. I have a 30-year-old son, I have a 26-year-old son, and a 20-year-old daughter. And I promised you, and I bet Dan will make it and any of our other colleagues here, that we will continue our commitment to the rigorous, sound science that are behind our products so that the safety of our products are ensured so the food produced by our products is safe for all of our kids to eat.
Mr. Grant, I'm David Clevenger. I farm in the Texas Panhandle, and I just asked for the indulgence of the shareholders. I wasn't planning on speaking, but it's hard to sit down and be attacked by what we do. And Ms. Honeycutt, I'm former national president of the wheat growers. I can assure you, without doubt, there is not Roundup sprayed on wheat as a drying agent. That does not happen. And all these other claims that you make, it's like Mr. Grant said, they're not science-based. I would welcome you to come to my farm. We can't find labor. So what Monsanto has done is I would enjoy you coming working for me. But because my son-in-law, they have a packing plant, we are short of labor. We are, and we need more labor. But unfortunately, people don't want to work on farms these days. And by what Monsanto has done, it has allowed me to continue my family. My grandfather bought our place in the 1950s, and I still today, my son is involved with us, and I plan on continuing to be there. As many of you have heard, Texas has gone through a tremendous drought. If you go to Austin, Texas, you can see Lake Travis is drying up. Because of the research Monsanto has done, I was able to plant the drought guard tolerant corn this year. My yields were improved, and because of that, I was able to stay in business. I consider myself to be a Christian person. I consider myself to be a godly man, and I believe that, I know you prayed when your son was sick, and I also did the same when my son had problems when he was a child. No one wants to go through that, but today, this past 2 years, we have grown the biotech sweet corn and deliver it into Amarillo, Texas, and we're feeding 6,000 families through the corn that was grown, because I congratulate you that you can afford organic, and I congratulate you that you're in that income stream that can afford organic. Unfortunately, some of our families in the United States cannot do that, and so because of that, Monsanto's research of providing accessible, healthy foods to families is what we need. And we do not need people to, attack us on what we're trying to do that's going to be positive for the United States. So in conclusion, I'll give you my card. I serve on the Environmental Defense Fund Advisory Board, and, they were against us. And when they finally came to the farm and saw what was going on, they realized it's not as you think it is. So I will be glad for you to come to my farm.
Thank you very much. Are there any other questions or comments from the floor? We've had a lively afternoon. Let me conclude the meeting of your company by thanking our guests, by thanking our share owners, and by thanking the proponents who came here today as well, who travelled, who stepped up to the microphone, who expressed their views. None of this is easy. We've talked a lot this afternoon. It really strikes me more. So a few things have happened this afternoon that have never happened in the last 15 years. We had some Monsanto employees who came to the microphone for the first time. We had growers who stood up, and we had a lot more visitors than we normally have. And I think that's a great thing. We talked a lot this afternoon about being parents. We talked a lot this afternoon about kids, the whole spectrum of age kids. And it strikes me as I wrap up this meeting, we have a responsibility to our kids. We have a responsibility to make sure that they grow up safe and sound. And increasingly, there is a broader responsibility emerging. And that responsibility, I think, is being recognised more today, certainly more than it was 15 years ago when this little company started all over. And that responsibility is the fact that there's 200,000 new kids coming up every single day. 200,000 new babies appear on the planet every single day. There used to be arguments about how big that was or how fast that was. There's not too many arguments anymore. But the numbers have just been increased, and now they think by 2050 there'll be 9.5 billion new citizens on the planet. But for those of us with kids, it means that for their adult life, when they're our age, or a wee bit older, and the kids that they will have, who will be your grandchildren, they're going to live in a really, really different world. There's 2 brand new Chinas are going to be here. The 2 new Chinas will occupy our little planet. The majority of those 2 billion new citizens will be in Asia and in Africa. A lot more in Africa than anybody can believe. And the bitter irony is they're going to live in an Africa that's warmer, dustier, drier, and potentially hungrier than the Africa that we know today. So as mums and dads, there's a dialogue around food. It's not going to be linear, it's not going to be smooth, but every kind of agriculture is going to have to put its shoulder to the wheel. People are going to have to get much more engaged in this conversation. But at the end of the day, there's 2.5 billion citizens who are going to expect a quality of life and access to safe, affordable, nutritious food. And the same requirement, the same expectation when it comes to clean, potable drinking water. We're a business. We invest with your board of directors in a 10 to 15-year horizon. And I have to tell you that I'm optimistic. I'm optimistic when I see the extraordinary work and the inventions that Dr. Fraley and his team bring forward. And you heard this afternoon about planting corn that needs less water. So I wanted to finish by thanking all of our shareholders. I wanted to thank the people who came to the microphone and expressed their views, all of them. And I wanted to particularly close by thanking our farmer guests who carry a heavy load today and whose children are going to carry an even heavier load in the future as we think about how we feed those hungry mouths going forward. Thank you for taking the time. We're going to finish, I always forget this, we're going to finish with a play out of some of the ads that we ran this year that talk about the dialogue around food and that shared dinner table experience. Safe trip home and be careful on the roads. Thank you.
Done. Goes to the table.
This is the best part of the day.
Dinner's ready.
When we sit down together and talk about what's going on around us.
Your table's ready.
More and more, the conversations we're having are about the food itself. Where it comes from. How good it is for us. How good it is for the planet. At Monsanto, we're having these conversations every day. And we're working with farmers to help make balanced meals accessible to everyone, while using natural resources more efficiently as our population continues to grow. It's time for a bigger discussion about food. Pull up a chair. Let's dig in. Be part of the conversation at discover.monsanto.com. From the very beginning, food is more than just a meal. It's the way we care for one another. It's the way we celebrate. Food is love. And as the population grows, food becomes the way we care for people we may never even meet. It's also part of how we take care of the planet. At Monsanto, we believe everyone deserves the love that comes from a balanced meal. And all of us deserve agriculture that provides for a sustainable future. It's time for a bigger discussion about food. Be part of the conversation at discover.monsanto.com.
This meeting is now concluded. Thank you again for joining us today. Have a great afternoon and drive safely.